Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in north central Nebraska, where a teen will be spending dozens of years behind bars for murdering her newborn son. Casey Wannenberg was in the courthouse and has more.
This is by far the toughest sentence I've done. That's what Judge Travis O'Gorman said when sentencing a Gordon teen who murdered her newborn son. 18-year-old Chloe Copeland Anderson was sentenced to 35 to 60 years in prison after pleading guilty to second-degree murder. The defense had called 2 witnesses to the stand to talk about how the teen suffered severe domestic and sexual abuse growing up, and because of that, suffered from several illnesses, including PTSD and major depressive disorder. They also mentioned that she got pregnant at 15 by a 19-year-old.
And there was nothing good about this case, from Chloe's background and all the abuse she suffered to what happened to the child.
Prosecutors argued that Copeland Anderson killed her baby in a very brutal way with 17 separate stab wounds, and then tried to hide the crime by cleaning up blood and putting the body in a bag in her closet. They also argued that she knew she was pregnant because of Google searches.
The victim being such a vulnerable and helpless baby, and that makes it difficult. It's one of those cases that I know was hard on the EMS, the law enforcement, the first responders, just because of the nature of that. But then you also have the facts of the case. There is a lot of trauma that the defendant herself had gone through in her life that had to be considered. So it's a very, very sad case.
Both the defense and prosecution agree that they hope the tragedy draws attention to warning signs and helps prevent future similar crimes.
It was very complex. That's why we had experts testify, and lots of stuff going on in Chloe's life before all this happened. And I hope that one good thing from this can come, that adults and kids' lives pay attention to what's going on, so we don't have to have something like this happen again.
During sentencing, the judge encouraged Copeland Anderson, saying she still has time to do something productive with her life, but she'll need to take advantage of available services. He also said that the crime is sad because it could have been preventable if adults in her life would have paid more attention. Reporting in Rushville, Casey Wannenberg, News Channel, Nebraska.
In other news, another round of severe weather swept over the Omaha metro Thursday afternoon, bringing with it flash flooding. Check out this footage sent in as residents around Omaha observed dangerous road conditions because of this flooding on Saddle Creek Road. Officials were urging an abundance of caution. The flash flood warning sounded on phones in the Omaha area a few minutes before 6 p.m. as reports came in of flooding on 45th and Leavenworth Streets and at Good Shepherd Elementary at 51st and Center near the end of Saddle Creek Road. Meanwhile, an unconfirmed preliminary report from the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center said a tornado touched down briefly Thursday across the Missouri River in Pottawatomie County, Iowa, about 4 miles northeast of Council Bluffs. Emergency management officials in the Trump administration, meanwhile, are in talks regarding reforms that would shift more disaster response responsibilities to the affected states. FEMA's administrator issued a memo listing recommendations that would result in the White House reducing the number of emergency declarations it approves and how much federal assistance would be handed out. The memo also calls for increasing the threshold states need to reach in order to qualify for public assistance. So far, there's no word if the White House is interested in following the proposals. The memo comes as Nebraska's congressional delegation issued a letter on Thursday urging President Trump to approve Governor Jim Pillen's request for a presidential disaster declaration for the March blizzard outbreak that knocked out power to tens of thousands and did an estimated $64 million worth of damages. Meanwhile, the National Weather Service will once again translate its weather alerts for people who don't speak English. It was paused earlier this month when a contract with an AI translation provider lapsed. That led to concerns that non-English speakers could miss out on important weather information during the active spring severe weather season. The National Weather Service says they plan to resume the translations of their products on Monday. Not a moment too soon for Nebraska. as forecasters believe widespread severe weather could be coming to the state to begin next week. U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts.
When the next severe weather event happens, don't get caught in the dark. Power your kitchen, HVAC, and communication systems with a Jackery solar-capable generator. Just click on our YouTube affiliate shopping tab and you're on your way.
He's made his way to central Nebraska as part of a series of public discussions across the state. Peter Rice has more from Thursday's town hall event in Kearney.
Senator Pete Ricketts has completed his first in a series of public town hall meetings, the first here in Kearney. Nebraskans from all across the state came to visit the senator and hear an update about Washington and also ask him questions about some of our country's most pressing issues. Ricketts says that much has already been accomplished during this administration and more is on the way. He highlighted how he supports the Trump administration's stance on having a strong illegal immigration policy, along with cutting federal spending. Ricketts said the most pressing issues for America right now is domestic debt and China. The approximately 150 people in the audience met the senator's comments with a wide range of emotions.
Where were you? You're supposed to represent us. Yeah. And you're not here.
The crowd was anxiously waiting their turn to speak and ask questions, even yelling at the senator that his 30-minute introduction period had gone over time. One audience member asked Ricketts if he stands with the Constitution or with President Trump, and Ricketts said,
"I will always uphold the Constitution and always support the people."
Another similar moment came when Senator Ricketts affirmed his support for Ukraine and called Vladimir Putin a dictator.
Like other dictators, he says what he's going to do and he's trying to go do it. If he's successful in Ukraine, he will try to do that other places as well. And for example, if he invades the Baltic states, their NATO allies, that's World War III. So that's why it's in our interest to make sure that Vladimir Putin gets stopped in Ukraine.
The rest of the Q&A session was largely confrontational, with most of the disgruntled audience members having issues with Ricketts' support for Trump and his lack of pushback on his agendas. Many of the questions from the audience were centered around spending cuts, and several of Ricketts' answers got boos or yells in response.
We have to take care of our veterans, and we have to make sure that we're doing a good job of that. We also have to keep our expenses in line and make sure we're doing it in a way that's cost-effective.
Despite the contentiousness, Ricketts thanked everyone for their questions and for participating in the democratic process. Ricketts also recommends that citizens can submit more questions and concerns to his staff in an effort to keep the conversation going. And this is just the first opportunity for citizens to interact with the senator, with Ricketts appearing in Valentine and Scotts Bluff on Friday to close out the series. In Kearney, Peter Rice, News Channel Nebraska.
Congressman Adrian Smith also facing a critical crowd in his home state on Thursday. Smith participated in a question and answer event hosted by the College Republicans at UNK Thursday afternoon. A couple dozen students were on hand asking questions. Most of the crowd, though, made up of local residents, many of whom had visited that Ricketts Town Hall earlier in the day. Smith fielded questions ranging from the future of the Department of Education to the work of the Department of Government Efficiency.
I'm concerned that the bureaucracy has grown so large across many different agencies. And I think, when you see Department of Government Efficiency so far, it's actually a pretty small footprint.
The student segment included typical discourse, but the mood changed when locals started asking questions. Smith left for another engagement about 45 minutes after the event started.
I wish that I had more time to extend the conversation. I believe that
you're not representing us.
Congress returns to Washington from a 2-week recess on Monday. And the U.S. could face millions of measles cases if state vaccination rates decline even more. That's according to a new Stanford-led study. Misinformation about the vaccine is spreading in the U.S., as is the disease itself. The CDC's reported 800 cases already this year, with an 11% hospitalization rate. Amy Kiley has more.
This is an extremely contagious disease.
A new study shows measles could become endemic in the U.S. if vaccination rates don't improve. That means it'd be present constantly, despite its declared elimination in 2000. Over a 25-year period, the researchers project almost 900,000 measles cases if rates stay the same. They forecast about 11 million if vaccinations decline 10%, and more than 51 million if they drop by half.
Everybody go get the measles vaccine right now.
The measles shots most people get as children are proven to be highly effective.
I believe in the MMR shot.
But U.S. vaccination rates are down since the COVID-19 pandemic. The CDC reports outbreaks in West Texas and surrounding states, with some cases in other areas.
There are complications including pneumonia, including seizures, including permanent disability, and of course, death.
A group of public health experts is trying to raise awareness with the Vaccine Integrity Project. They say it's a response to mixed messages from Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
People get measles because they don't vaccinate. They get measles because the vaccine wanes.
The CDC considers the modern vaccine lifelong protection against the measles. Here's the FDA commissioner on whether parents should get it for their children.
Any child who dies from a vaccine-preventable disease is a tragedy.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com and click on the news tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. This is News Channel Nebraska.